It wasn't supposed to get this far. I keep replaying that line in my head like a broken record while I sit on the edge of my bed. Owen hasn't slept here in weeks. His side is still neatly made, untouched. He took his pillow with him when he moved into the guest room. A small detail, but it gutted me. That stupid pillow. I stare at my phone, willing it to light up with his name. Even a text. Even a single-word response to the 12 messages I sent last night, each more desperate than the last. But the screen stays black, and the silence presses against my chest like a weight I can't lift. My name is Melanie. I'm 34. I work in HR at a mid-sized insurance firm. I make decent money, keep the house relatively clean, bake when I'm stressed. I'm not reckless, not a liar, not whatever this makes me. I've been married to Owen for 7 years, and I used his money without asking. I keep telling myself it wasn't stealing. I didn't sneak into a vault wearing all black and cut into his accounts like a thief. I just borrowed from what was ours. Temporarily. For things I couldn't put off. For people I couldn't say no to. And maybe, for things I just wanted, even if I didn't need them. I started calling it soft borrowing in my head. Because if you rename a bad thing with something that sounds gentle, it doesn't sting as much. And Owen? Owen is the kind of man who notices when a 99-cent app appears on his credit card. He balances his checkbook with an actual calculator and a ruler. He alphabetizes the spice rack. He schedules our oil changes 3 months in advance. He is calm, deliberate, and painfully responsible. He's the kind of man who, when I had a sore throat last winter, brewed 3 different herbal teas in a taste test, and took notes on which one soothed me best. And I broke that man's trust over the course of a year and a half with a few $100s at a time. It started after Christmas. Our car broke down. Owen, being Owen, wanted to research, compare mechanics, wait for the right quote. I couldn't take it. We were using ride shares and borrowing his coworker's car. I was embarrassed, impatient. So I got a credit card in my name. Just for emergencies. I told myself it was a buffer, nothing more. But I didn't tell him about it. I paid the repair bill. Then I used the card again the following month to cover part of my old student loan payment. And then again to order takeout when I was too tired to cook. By the 3rd month, the minimum payment was due, and I didn't have it. So I pulled from our joint savings. Just once, I said. And then once more. And then one day I looked up and realized I was erasing years of savings for just this once. I always thought I'd fix it before he noticed. Move things around, shuffle my paycheck, maybe even return some of the stuff I bought. I imagined this hypothetical moment in the future where I'd pay it all back and say nothing ever happened. But that moment never came. Because the truth is, I got used to it. Used to the ease of it. Used to solving things with a few clicks instead of hard conversations. Used to the idea that Owen would never notice. I didn't plan to deceive him. I just didn't plan not to. And now he knows. Now he's sleeping in the guest room. Now he barely looks at me. Now he's become this quiet, disappointed stranger in my house. And the worst part? I think I'd rather he screamed. I think I'd rather he called me names, threw something, slammed a door. Because the silence, this heavy, still anger, it tells me he might be too hurt to even fight. It tells me he might already be gone. The day Owen found out, I didn't even realize what he'd seen at first. I came home from work to the sound of silence, which is unusual in our house. No kettle whistling, no low hum of a podcast in the kitchen, no news playing on low volume from the living room TV. Just this eerie, unnatural stillness that made my stomach twist. He was sitting at the dining table, laptop open, our joint account pulled up. There was a yellow legal pad beside him, and every line was filled with neat, infuriatingly meticulous handwriting. "Is there something you want to tell me?" he asked without looking up. My heart did that rabbit thump thing it does when you almost rear-end someone in traffic. I blinked. "What do you mean?" He turned the laptop so I could see. Rows and rows of withdrawals, transfers, credit card payments to accounts I hadn't even told him existed. My mouth opened, but no words came out. "Mel," he said, and this time his voice cracked. Just once, like a fault line starting to split. "How long?" That's the moment my legs went weak. I had to grip the back of a chair just to stay upright. Because I knew then, this wasn't going to be a fight we could sweep under the rug. This wasn't a spat or a misunderstanding. He knew, and he had receipts. "Over a year," I whispered. He stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. "Over a year?" He wasn't yelling, but his voice was sharp, like shattered glass. "You've been lying to me for over a year, and you thought I wouldn't notice?" I didn't mean to lie, I started, but he cut me off with a short, bitter laugh. "You didn't mean to. What, the money just magically walked out of our account?" I sat down at the table, across from the mess I'd made. I tried to explain. The car repair, the student loans, the bills that stacked up when my sister lost her job and needed help with her rent. I told him about the card I got in my name and how it snowballed, how I always meant to pay it back, how I thought I could fix it before he noticed. He listened, or at least he let me talk. Then he got up, walked to the bedroom, and shut the door. And that was it. For the next week, we lived like ghosts. He went to work early, came home late, ate alone, slept alone. The only words we exchanged were logistical. "There's leftovers in the fridge. The power bill is due Monday." I started tracking his silences the way he used to track our expenses, each one a new entry in the growing ledger of his disappointment. And I started to realize something awful. Owen might never trust me again. That's when the guilt changed flavor. It stopped being about the money. It started being about the version of me he used to believe in, the Melanie he married, the one who would rather eat instant noodles for a week than borrow $1 without asking. That woman doesn't exist anymore. And the woman who took her place might be someone he can't love. It took 10 days of silence before Owen finally said something real. I was in the kitchen trying to act like life was normal. I was stirring pasta sauce in a pan even though I hadn't been hungry for days. I heard him come in from work, keys hitting the dish by the door, the usual rustle of his coat. I didn't turn around. "We need to talk," he said. I gripped the wooden spoon like a lifeline. My stomach clenched. He sat at the table, the same chair he'd used when he confronted me. His eyes looked tired, like sleep had been as evasive for him as it had for me. "I've been thinking," he began, "about what this means, about what you did, about what comes next." I turned the burner off and sat across from him. I wanted to speak but couldn't. My throat was a knot. "Mel, I don't think I can do this anymore. Not like this. Not while pretending nothing's changed." "I know," I said softly. He rubbed his hands together. "I still love you, but I don't trust you. And I don't know if I ever will again." That hurt more than anything he'd said so far. I reached for him instinctively, but he pulled back. "Don't," he whispered. "Please don't touch me unless you mean it. Unless you're ready to tell the truth. All of it." "I am," I said. "Ask me anything." He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. "Then tell me this. Was it really just money? Or was it something more? Were you angry, resentful, trying to prove something?" The tears came without warning. I don't know, maybe. I think I felt powerless, like I had no say. You were always so in control of everything. I started resenting that. He nodded slowly. "So, instead of talking to me, you took from me?" "Yes, I was wrong." There was a long silence. Then he stood. "I've booked an Airbnb. I'll be staying there for a while. I need space. I'm not filing for anything yet, but I need to figure out who I am when I'm not trying to patch this up." "And me?" I asked, voice cracking. He looked at me with something like grief. "You need to figure out who you are when you're not lying." Then he grabbed a small duffel bag from the hallway, walked out, and didn't look back. The door clicked shut like the period at the end of a sentence I never wanted to write. It started with a slip. A mutual friend of ours, Gina, from Owen's work, ran into me at the pharmacy and asked with a cheerful smile, "So is the bakery dream still happening? Or did you guys decide to hold off?" I stared at her, confused. "What bakery?" She blinked. "Oh, Owen didn't tell you?" I shook my head slowly. She looked immediately uncomfortable. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. I thought it was a surprise. It wasn't until that night that I remembered a folder in the filing cabinet labeled Project M. I'd seen it weeks ago while looking for our tax documents and assumed it was some work file. But now, something about it nagged at me. While Owen was gone, staying at the Airbnb, I opened it. Inside were property listings, floor plans, budget estimates, drafts of logos and name ideas scrawled in Owen's handwriting. Mel's Oven, The Whisk and Crumb, Sunday Morning Bakery. There was even a mock business plan with my name at the top, a detailed timeline, licensing research, printed emails with realtors, photos of a vacant corner space on Main Street, the one I always said would be perfect if I ever opened my own bakery. I dropped to the floor. Everything in the folder trembled in my hands. This wasn't a random dream. This was a gift, a secret plan, a labor of love. He was going to surprise me with it. And I had destroyed the very thing he was using to build it. The money I had drained, that was the bakery fund. Our bakery fund. How do you come back from that? For the first time in weeks, I cried with the kind of heaving, body-shaking grief that makes you feel like something has been ripped from your ribs. I wasn't just mourning the marriage. I was mourning who we were supposed to become, who he believed I could be. That night, I texted him. Me. I found the folder. I had no idea. "I'm so sorry. I didn't deserve that kind of love. I'm trying to be better. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, but I had to say it." No reply. He didn't even leave me on read. I wanted to scream. Not at him, at myself. At the version of me who had traded ambition and partnership for petty power plays and silent withdrawals. I could have been the woman he believed in. Instead, I became the reason he stopped believing. I stayed up that night researching licensing and permits. I mapped out what a bakery could still look like on a smaller budget. It wasn't about winning him back. It was about honoring the dream he'd tried to give me, before I shattered it. I used to think divorce was something dramatic, a screaming match, someone slamming the door, storming off with a suitcase, neighbors peeking through curtains. But ours happened in silence. It was slow, clinical, like watching the life drain from something you loved without being able to stop it. Owen didn't come back from the Airbnb. He extended the stay, then extended it again. Then, one day, he emailed me a list of mediators. Not a text. Not a phone call. An email. There was no venom in it. Just logistics. That somehow made it worse. I agreed to everything. I didn't ask for the house or alimony. I didn't push for a bigger share of anything. I just nodded through each appointment, each meeting, each notarized signature like I was watching someone else live my life. My friends didn't know what to say. Some took my side in public but said less forgiving things in private. Others ghosted me altogether. My own sister, who had borrowed more than a few of the dollars I took from our account, said, "Well, you kind of did this to yourself." I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment with thin walls and a leaky faucet. The kind of place you rent when you're 34 and starting over from below zero. I started walking past the corner property on Main Street during my lunch breaks. The "For Lease" sign was gone. One day, a paper banner appeared in the window. Sweet Sage Bakery. Opening soon. Someone else had taken the space. Someone else was going to live my dream. The papers were finalized on a Tuesday. I remember because I took the rest of the day off and spent it sitting on the floor of my empty apartment, eating dry cereal out of the box, wondering how the hell I had ended up here. Owen never looked back. Not once. Not when I handed him the signed documents. Not when I gave him back the spare key. Not when I whispered, "I'm sorry," one last time as he turned to leave. He didn't even nod. Just walked out the door like the last 7 years were already filed away as a cautionary tale. And maybe they were. I thought losing him would feel like a gaping hole. But what I actually felt was smaller than that, like static, like emptiness, the absence of sound, the absence of hope. I used his money without asking, but it wasn't the money that ended us. It was the silence. It was the trust I spent like loose change. It was the dreams he built that I bulldozed without ever knowing. And now I'm left with nothing but receipts and regret. People think regret comes like a tidal wave, all at once. But for me, it came in sips. Small moments, lingering stings. Like the first night I ate dinner alone in my apartment and realized I hadn't cooked a real meal in weeks. Owen used to joke that I seasoned everything like I was angry. Now, I couldn't remember the last time I cooked with joy. Or when I opened my email and saw a birthday coupon from a bakery supply store, one I'd signed up for years ago when the dream was fresh and innocent. And I burst into tears in the middle of a staff meeting. Regret, I've learned, is mostly quiet. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It says, "You had everything you needed. You made it harder than it had to be." He was trying. Were you? Sometimes I still reach for my phone to text Owen. I imagine saying something like, "Saw a guy wearing your terrible hiking boots today." Or more honest, "I miss you." But I don't. Because silence is what created the space between us. And now it's the only thing I have left. I followed the Sweet Sage Bakery on Instagram. I shouldn't have, but I did. The owner is a young woman named Camille. She looks bright and driven. In one post, she thanks the previous tenants who left behind a few brilliant sketches and menu ideas. It inspired the concept. I laughed and cried at the same time. Of course he left them. He always believed someone should benefit from a good idea, even if it wasn't him. I bake now. Not for money, not for an audience, just for me. It's not redemption. I know that. Nothing I do now rewinds the clock or rewrites the ledger. But every batch of bread I knead, every cake I frost, every timer I set, it's a small offering to the life I should have cherished. Sometimes I think about running into him. I picture a quiet grocery store aisle, or maybe that coffee shop he used to like. I don't know what I'd say. But I know what I'd want him to see. That I learned. That I changed. That I still carry him with me in every choice, every pause, every honest moment. He gave me a future I didn't believe I deserved. And now, I live every day trying to be the kind of woman who would have earned it.